Hello and welcome back to your class. And I hope the week has started on a brighter note for you all. We were discussing the chapter Deep Waters in part one of this video. And in this particular chapter, we are discussing about the real life experience of William Douglas, who was actually the judge of the Supreme Court of USA. And he was scared of water because when he was 3 years old, that time a big wave knocked him down and he couldn't breathe. And so to overcome that fear, he grows up till 10 or 11 years old, and then he tries to fight with that fear. And while he's fighting with that fear, he tries to learn swimming again. But again, an incident occurs, and this time it's a terrible one because he is actually in drowning in the swimming pool where the water is deep, it's not shallow. And he's scared, he's nervous, he's trying his best mentally to save himself. He's trying to push himself on the surface of the water, and so that he can catch hold of something strong, so that he may not drown, or he may just come to the sides of the pool. But all his whatever he's trying is in vain. Nothing is helping him out, because now the water is going inside his mouth, inside his eyes, inside his nose, and he's having a very, very difficult time breathing, trying to keep himself in a normal condition, and trying to trying to keep his wits together. But it's not helping him out in any way. So that's what we have studied in the previous lecture, and now I'm going to start what happens next. Is he able to save himself, or somebody else comes in to save him? We are at the line, I struck at the water. I struck at the water as I went down, expending my strength as one in a nightmare fights an irresistible force. I had lost all my breath. My lungs ached. My head throbbed. I was getting dizzy. But I remembered the strategy. I would spring from the bottom of the pool and come like a cork to the surface. I would lie flat on the water, strike out with my arms, and thrash with my legs. Then I would get to the edge of the pool and be safe. So, though this boy of 11 years, he is pushed by a bigger boy who had more common sense, but just to have a little bit of fun, he did not know that William doesn't know how to swim. So he had pushed him inside the water. So actually what happens is, like, now that he is drowning, now that he knows that he is drowning, still he is trying to overcome his fear by telling himself that he can save himself. And all the plan, he says, the strategy was very clear in his mind, and he decided that once he would go down and touch the bottom of the pool, he will push himself up, and perhaps he will move upwards like a cork of a bottle, and then he would catch hold of some edge, whatever is available over there, and then put his head up and try to breathe, and that is how he will be saved. But unfortunately, nothing of like that happens. I went down, down endlessly. I opened my eyes. Nothing but water with a yellow glow, dark water that one could not see through. And then sheer, stark terror seized me. Terror that knows no understanding. Terror that knows no control. Terror that no one can understand who has not experienced it. I was shrieking underwater. I was paralyzed underwater, stiff, rigid with fear. Even the screams in my throat were frozen. Only my heart and the pounding in my head said that I was still alive. Okay, so he tries to do that, and he goes deep inside the water. and he tries to push himself upwards, but all in vain because he was short. He was still a child. He did not have that much of strength that would push him 8 or 9 feet up the water. So he opens his eyes, and then he realizes that he is going down, 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 and he's down, drowning in the water. He's going down in the pool. He's going down in the water, and he can see nothing else but the yellow, dirty water. And then at that particular moment, when he sees that yellow dirty water, when he realizes that he has not reached at the edge or at the surface of the pool, a terror strikes him, and this terror engulfs him completely. Okay, because this terror, he's described it in a very beautiful manner, that it did not have control over him. He did not have control over that terror. The terror completely engulfed him. It paralyzed him underwater. It made him stiff, rigid, motionless, afraid, frightened, and he was screaming, but he couldn't scream because he was underwater. His throat was aching, his head was paining, his lungs were also paining, and that's the moment he realizes that all his effort was in vain. All the effort that he was trying to put his wits together and try to save himself were in vain, because now that terror had taken him over, and that terror froze him completely. So now he was unable to move his legs, unable to move his hands, unable to use his brain, which were earlier giving him positive thoughts or encouraging thoughts. And right now there was nothing like that. There was absolutely nothing like that. He was just going down, down, down in the water, and that terror, that fear had overpowered him. That fear had completely gripped him, and that fear made him motionless, and that fear made him freeze inside the water. He couldn't even scream. And the only sound that he could hear now was the sound of his heartbeat, which was beating very fast, just to make him realize that he was alive. That was all that he could hear and that he could feel. And then, in the midst of the terror, came a touch of reason. I must remember to jump when I hit the bottom. At last, I felt the tiles under me. My toes reached out as if to grab them. I jumped with everything I had, but the jump made no difference. The water was still around me. I looked for ropes, ladders, water wings, nothing but water. A mass of yellow water held me. Stark terror took an even deeper hold on me, like a great charge of electricity. I shook and trembled with fright. My arms wouldn't move. My legs wouldn't move. I tried to call for help, to call for mother. Nothing happened. Right? So this time, again, he says that again that terror was, as the terror was taking him over, again he realized that maybe now again I'm going down, and this time, for the last time, I'll try my best to push myself upwards again. And as his toes touches the bottom of the pool, he, with all the courage that he had, with all the strength that he had, again he pushed himself upwards. But that courage was strong, definitely, but the strength was very, very weak, because his legs were not moving, his arms were aching, so they were not moving, and he could not reach the surface. He tried to find for some ropes or some ladders or some water wings or something, at least something that he could just hold on and catch a grip of it and just try to move himself upwards. But nothing like that happened. And this time He now is at the zenith of his thoughts, at the zenith of uh, the point where he realizes that now nobody can save him. And like every other ordinary person, like you, like me, uh, he remembers his mother and he calls out to his mother, because somewhere inside everybody's heart we feel that जब भी चोट भी लगती है तो सबसे पहले हम माँ को बुलाते हैं, हमारे मुंह से ऑटोमेटिकली निकल जाता है. Our system is so immune to call out to our mothers, and that's what he also does. He remembers his mother because now he knows that he has drowned. He's alive because he can hear his heartbeat, but at the same time he just calls out to his mother, knowing that he is inside the water and his mother cannot hear him, but still with his painful heart, with the spirit that he had leaving him now, he calls out to his mother. And then strangely there was light. I was coming out of the awful yellow water. At least my eyes were. My nose was almost out too. Then I started down a third time. I sucked for air and got water. The yellowish light was going out. Okay, so strangely this time what happens is he sees the light. So somewhere in his mind he knows that he is very very close to the surface. So he puts his mouth and nose out, and he feels, he doesn't know what is happening actually, but he feels that he can see the light. His nose is out of the water, his mouth is out of the water, but again for the third time he starts drowning again. And this time he says he sucked the water, he sucked the air, and that yellow light started disappearing. That means he came to the surface, but again, since there was no support that he could get at the surface, he went down again. Then all effort ceased. I relaxed, even my legs felt limp, and a blackness swept over my brain. It wiped out fear, it wiped out terror. There was no more panic. It was quiet and peaceful, nothing to be afraid of. This is nice, to be drowsy, to go to sleep. No need to jump, too tired to jump. It's nice to be carried gently, to float along in space. Tender arms around me, tender arms like mothers. Now I must go to sleep. I crossed to oblivion, and the curtain of life fell. The next I remember, I was lying on my stomach beside the pool, vomiting. The chap that threw me in was saying, "But I was only fooling." Someone said, "The kid nearly died. Be all right now. Let's carry him to the locker room." Several hours later, I walked home. I was weak and trembling. I shook and cried when I lay on my bed. I couldn't eat that night. For days, a haunting fear was in my heart. The slightest exertion upset me, making me wobbly in the knees and sick to my stomach. I never went back to the pool. I feared water. I avoided it whenever I could. Right? So, now, for the last time, as he's going down the waters, his body means जितना strength था, everything leaves his body. Okay, so his body becomes very limp. जैसे जान निकल जाती है, so there's no life, and then you start just helpless. So he's drowning in the water, and his eyes starts closing, and he feels very very dizzy and very sleepy. एक्चुअली में वो बेहोश हो रहा है, लेकिन उसको लगता है कि उसको नींद आ रही है. तो वो उस पॉइंट पे ही रियलाइजेस दैट this is a nice feeling altogether, because that fear has now left him, because he's now becoming unconscious. So he's fainting. So he says, this is a nice feeling. No need to jump, no need to try, no nothing he has to do, because he's just collapsing there. He's just drowning in the water. And all he could feel was that his eyes were closing, he was fainting, but suddenly some tender hands held him. And in his mind, in his imagination, he feels that those tender hands are that of his mother's, which were actually not, because that were the hands of the coach or the person who was teaching how to swim. And after some time, when he regains his consciousness, he realizes that he was vomiting and somebody just carried him to the locker room. But before, he also heard that somebody scolding that boy, that 18-year-old boy who had pushed him in the water. And that boy was saying, but that he did not know that that William did not know how to swim, and he was just joking around, and he was getting a scolding from the coach that he had almost killed this little boy by pushing him in the water. So the poet remembers that though he became all right, he went back to his house, but on that particular day, he could not sleep, he could not eat, because of the memories of the whole experience came back to him again and again. And he was very afraid, he was frightened of the memory itself. And he says for a very, very long time he had these disturbed sleep, and he used to dream about his drowning in the water. And he says for a very, very long time he was scared to even look at the water, so he never went close to the water. He never went, he feared water, so he tried to avoid going to lakes, rivers, beaches, anywhere where there was a water body. He avoided to go there. He just ignored it completely, because that fear had become his second life. He never, that fear did not leave him for till the time he became the judge of the Supreme Court. Okay, so that's the story ahead. We will read what happens next. But till he grew up, became a man, finished his studies, started studying and working, till that particular time, he avoided water, he feared water, and he never wanted to go close to the water at all. Okay, so I will stop here, and I will expect all of you to read the chapter till here. If you have any issues understanding it, go through this video again. If you still have any problems, please write down in the comment section, or else message me personally. Right? So take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Have a nice day.